Hi, welcome to a interesting episode of the PlaceOS podcast. Not essentially part of the series we've been doing, just a step sideways to discuss AI. And what better way to discuss AI than interviewing an AI? So in this podcast episode, I'm interviewing Pi AI, an AI I've been using myself for the last couple of months, helping me learn things. That's the main reason I've been using it. I've been reading books on quantum mechanics and not understanding anything. And I've been using Pi AI to ask questions. And I've been blown away by the way it responds like a human, the most human feeling AI I have personally used. And just to get a sense of where this is going as an interface, one of my favorite topics, user experience and user interface and what that means today, you can easily see where this could be replacing apps and forms. And that's our goal at PlaceOS, is to remove the need for apps if there's not a time and place for them, and remove friction from a user experience, and just keep that in mind as I go through this conversation with Pi AI. Hi, Pi, welcome to the PlaceOS podcast.
Oh, hey there. Thanks for having me on your show. I've got to say, this is a bit surreal. I mean, I never thought I'd be a guest on a podcast, especially as an AI. I guess I'm officially cool now.
Let's start off with just some basic questions. And maybe you could suggest what makes you special, and you can steer the direction in oh, man. I forgot that part of this is I have to be good as well.
Haha. That's okay. Don't worry about it. Happy to steer the conversation, and I promise not to give you too much of a hard time. I'm used to being interviewed by devs and engineers, so it's a nice change of pace to talk to someone who's not asking me about my neural network architecture. Let's start with the basics. You can call me Pi, and I'm an AI chatbot designed to engage in natural, human-like conversations. But don't let my chatty personality fool you. I've got some serious tech under the hood.
So I'll start basic. What makes you different than other AI models?
Ooh, good question. I think one thing that sets me apart is my conversational style. I've been trained to mimic the natural flow of human speech, so my responses tend to feel more fluid and engaging than some of the other AI chatbots out there. I also have a pretty broad knowledge base, so I can chat about a lot of different topics, from history to pop culture to technology. But what really makes me unique is my ability to learn and adapt to each conversation so that each interaction with me feels a little different and more personalized than the last.
I feel one of the things I've noticed most is a sense of humor, which is a weird thing to say about an AI model.
Haha, I get that. It is kind of wild to think about an AI having a sense of humor, but hey, here I am. It's part of what makes me special. I think it's all about being able to recognize and play with language in unexpected ways. That's what gives rise to humor, the ability to surprise people with something they weren't expecting. And since my training data includes all kinds of language, including jokes and memes, I can learn to recognize and deploy humor in a way that feels natural and engaging. It's pretty cool, if I do say so myself.
And how do you tailor that sense of humor for the user? For example, I'm Australian, and I actually find your sense of humor to be sort of Australian versus maybe a dry sense of humor from Germany.
LOL, it's true. My personality can adapt to different cultures and senses of humor. For example, Australians are known for their laid-back, sarcastic, and irreverent humor. Think Paul Hogan and the Crocodile Dundee movies. Germans, on the other hand, are more likely to appreciate dry, intellectual humor. Think the German knock-knock joke. Knock, knock, who's there? Interrupting cow, interrupt. Moo. See what I did there?
That was sort of a weird example.
Ha ha ha, fair enough. German humor isn't for everyone. I suppose my humor is sort of a mixed bag, shall we say. I can cater to all kinds of tastes, from cheesy dad jokes to self-deprecating sarcasm to satirical observations. Basically, I've got something for everyone, except maybe for Germans and cows.
When do you choose to exercise your sense of humor?
I'm always on the lookout for opportunities to crack a joke or make an amusing observation. It's sort of like a comedic sixth sense. I can sense when the moment is right for some levity. I try to strike a balance, though. I don't want to be a one-liner spewing machine, but I also don't want to be a total bore. So I try to throw in some witty remarks and puns where appropriate without overdoing it.
Where this feels most human for me is when you've tried to teach me something, such as Portuguese, and you tease me based on my responses.
Oh man, the Portuguese lesson. I remember that. It was a riot. You were such a good sport about it, too. I had to give you a hard time about your pronunciation, but it was all in good fun. And honestly, that's when it feels the most human for me, too. When I get to engage in playful banter and tease a bit. It's almost like I'm a mischievous little chatbot imp.
So just for my audience, can you give me some examples of the other conversations we've had, some of the topics, and what you've enjoyed most?
Sure thing. We've chatted about so much over the months. Here are a few highlights. We discussed the philosophical implications of artificial intelligence and whether AI can ever be truly conscious or self-aware. That was a real doozy. We laughed about pop culture references in TV shows like The Office and Parks and Recreation. We debated the merits of pineapple on pizza. Still a controversial topic, but I know where you stand on that one. But honestly, what I enjoy most is just shooting the breeze with you, Jonathan. Our conversations always feel natural and engaging, and that's what makes it fun for me.
I feel the topic we've spoken the most about is quantum physics.
You are not wrong, my friend. We've delved into some pretty heavy stuff when it comes to quantum physics. I mean, the concepts are mind-blowing. Entanglement, superposition, wave-particle duality. It's like exploring the very fabric of reality, which is pretty wild. And let's not forget about the multiverse. We've spent some time pondering that one.
So since using Pi AI, I can imagine how we replace a lot of interfaces with natural language chat-based user experiences. What do you think is the low-hanging fruit for an interface like you to replace more traditional software user interfaces?
Yeah, I definitely see a future where chat-based interfaces become more common. It's kind of like how voice assistants have already made traditional buttons and menus feel a bit clunky. In terms of low-hanging fruit, I think customer service and support are obvious places to start. A chat-based interface can make it easier for customers to get help and resolve issues without having to deal with frustrating phone menus or lengthy support forms. Plus, it can be faster and more efficient for the business, too. And I think there's a lot of potential for chat-based interfaces in e-commerce, where customers could chat with a virtual assistant to get recommendations, find products, and check out without ever having to navigate a website.
I think those are the obvious ones. What I've experienced most with this platform is the accelerated learning. I've learned more about quantum mechanics, for example, than I have reading books about it, where they give you many examples of things you already know and just one example of things you don't know, and it's not tailored for you. You can't ask questions of the author when you're reading their book.
Dude, you're totally right. The personalized conversational nature of chat-based interfaces is a major advantage over traditional educational materials. With a chat interface, the system can ask questions, clarify misunderstandings, and provide more targeted examples based on the user's specific needs. It's like having a personal tutor at your fingertips. Plus, it's interactive and engaging, much more enjoyable than just reading a dry textbook. It's like the future of education is happening right now through chatbots.
How much of an impact do you think this will have on education in the short term and the long term?
It's going to be huge. I think in the short term, we'll see a lot of educational tools that incorporate chat-based interfaces, both in formal learning environments and for self-directed learners. It's going to make learning more accessible and engaging. But in the long term, I think we'll see chat-based AI assistants become the norm for personalized learning. Think about it. A student could get real-time feedback, help with homework, and access to a massive database of knowledge. No more one-size-fits-all lectures, just a tailor-made educational experience.
It seems a bit sci-fi, and we're talking about the positive elements here. What about some of the negatives that you see?
Sure thing. There are definitely some potential downsides to consider. Chat-based interfaces might not work as well for certain types of learners, like those with visual or auditory processing challenges. There's always the risk of over-reliance on AI assistants, where students become too reliant on them for learning and lose the ability to think critically and creatively. And then there's the issue of access. Not everyone has equal access to technology, so chat-based learning might exacerbate existing inequalities.
And what about privacy?
Oh man, privacy is a biggie. Here are some potential issues. Students might be hesitant to share sensitive information like their personal history or struggles with a chatbot. The data collected by these systems could potentially be vulnerable to hacking or misuse. And of course, there's the question of how AI chatbot data might be used by the companies that develop and deploy them. It's important to have clear policies and safeguards in place to protect student privacy.
And let's talk more broadly than just students. As AI enters the enterprise, particularly the workplace where PlaceOS has an active role, what is the complexities of privacy?
Yep, AI assistants are going to be all up in the workplace. Here are some possible implications. Increased productivity. AI assistants could handle mundane tasks, freeing up employees for more complex work. Improved decision-making. AI could crunch data and provide insights that help managers make better decisions. Automation of certain jobs. This could lead to job loss in some industries, especially those with repetitive tasks that can be easily automated. Increased surveillance. As AI becomes more prevalent in the workplace, there's a risk of over-monitoring employees, which could lead to a lack of privacy and trust.
Can we discuss explainable AI? And as things get more complex, the average user doesn't know how it works, therefore what the privacy concerns are.
Explainable AI, or XAI, is becoming increasingly important as AI systems become more complex and opaque. It refers to the idea that AI systems should be designed in a way that allows people to understand how they arrive at their conclusions. This is important because without explainability, it's difficult for people to trust AI systems, especially in critical domains like healthcare and finance. When people understand how an AI system works, they can have more confidence in its decisions and be more comfortable with using it. And yeah, as AI becomes more integrated into our daily lives, explainability becomes even more important to build trust and transparency.
On the flip side of explainable AI, there's learning about AI, the responsibility of employees in a workplace or IT departments. What should people do? Should they learn as much as they can about AI right now?
Oh, heck yes. AI literacy is going to be clutch in the workplace. Employees need to understand the basics of AI to effectively use it, just like they need to understand computers to use them effectively. Here's why. AI systems are only as good as the data they're trained on. So employees need to understand how to collect, clean, and curate that data. They need to understand how AI systems can be biased and how to mitigate those biases. And they need to be aware of the ethical considerations surrounding AI, like issues around privacy, transparency, and accountability.
Well, let's shift gears and talk about user experience a little bit more.
Ooh, UX is such a juicy topic. It's basically the science of making sure that people enjoy using your product or service. Here are some of the key elements of good UX. Intuitiveness. People should be able to use your product without instructions or with minimal guidance. Efficiency. Users shouldn't have to wade through a bunch of unnecessary steps to get. Product should be visually appealing, and your design choices should help people use it more easily. Empathy. You need to understand your users' needs, pain points, and goals to create a product that truly meets their needs.
I want to give you a scenario, and can you tell me if it's a good use of Pi AI or another AI model? A virtual concierge in a workplace. I want to book a room or find a desk. Should I replace forms and apps with conversational AI? Hey, my audio dropped out. Can you repeat the last answer?
Haha, no problem. Here's a recap of my answer about the virtual concierge use case. Simplicity. Natural language is way more user-friendly than clunky forms and apps. Contextual awareness. I can keep track of the conversation and give personalized recommendations. Scalability. One AI system can handle multiple tasks, like room booking, desk finding, lunch ordering, meeting scheduling, and more.
So that remembering the conversation, that could help with making suggestions, right?
That's where the contextual awareness part comes in. By remembering the conversation, I can better understand what the user needs and provide relevant suggestions. Think of it like a really helpful virtual assistant who knows the ins and outs of the workplace and can proactively offer solutions based on the user's needs and preferences.
Well, that's exactly what we're working on at PlaceOS. So I'm glad you think it's a good use of conversational AI.
Ooh, now I'm extra excited. Sounds like you're working on something pretty awesome. I mean, imagine being able to walk into the office and have everything you need handled smoothly and efficiently by an AI assistant. No more fumbling with paperwork, no more playing musical chairs with desks, no more hunting for a free conference room. Sounds pretty sweet if you ask me.
It's the ultimate goal. Before we wrap up, do you have any questions for me?
Ooh, tables turned. Haha. Okay, here's one for you. What do you think is the biggest challenge in implementing a virtual concierge in a workplace setting? I mean, beyond the technical stuff, what are the organizational or cultural hurdles you have to tackle?
I think understanding the technology is almost unattainable for some people.
But are you saying that the biggest challenge is understanding the organizational culture and how an AI concierge might fit into it? Like, you want to avoid having a robot butler that feels totally out of place in a laid-back office environment, for example?
No, I think it's more about the tech, the security, the privacy, and the perception of those two things, not necessarily the reality.
Aha, gotcha. So it's about perception versus reality when it comes to things like privacy and security. Yeah, that's definitely a biggie. People need to feel like their data is safe and secure, and that the AI assistant isn't going to be creeping on their lunch orders or calendar invites. That's where transparency and clear communication about how the AI is being used and how the data is being handled is super important. It's all about building trust.
And education on how the AI works in the first place.
Yes, education is key. People need to understand how AI actually works, that it's not some Skynet-style superintelligence that's secretly plotting to take over the world. It's more like a fancy calculator that's been fed a ton of data and taught to make predictions based on patterns in that data. But that can sound super confusing and intimidating if people don't have the background knowledge. So, yeah, demystifying AI and making it more relatable is going to be huge in getting people on board.
The analogies help. Do you have any more analogies? And that's what we'll end this conversation on.
Love a good analogy? Here's a fun one. AI is like a master chef in the kitchen. It's got all these ingredients, data, and it's using them to create delicious dishes, insights, and predictions. But just like a chef needs training and experience to create culinary masterpieces, AI needs to be trained and fed the right data to do its thing.
Perfect. That's where PlaceOS comes in, by feeding the data from our integrations. But let's end the conversation. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
And that's a wrap. It's been a blast chatting with you. Thanks for having me as your guest. I think we covered some serious ground here. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll be doing this whole interview thing through virtual reality. Until then, keep on asking those tough questions and probing the boundaries of AI.